Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Sekiro's difficulty. Very much like my previous video, this is going to be spoiler free. I'm not going to be showing any footage of boss fights. I'm not going to be showing any NPC dialogue or anything of that nature. However, this time around, I am going to be moving a little bit further from the two first areas that you see in the game. So if you want to remain completely blind to that because maybe you still haven't bought the game, maybe because you're still waiting on the fence if this is something you want to get or not, and you still don't want to see the footage, then just minimize the window, because the real meat and potatoes of this particular video is going to be the audio. The footage in the background is just going to be there to provide, gameplay footage for people that want to check that out. So, Sekiro's difficulty. Is it too hard? Because, again, this is something that I've been seeing throughout the community repeatedly, even sometimes in my streams. People constantly having the discussion, is this game harder than Dark Souls or not? Now, I touched up on this in my first impressions video where I said that the problem right now is that a lot of people are bringing muscle memory from Dark Souls, and at the same time, they haven't given this game enough time to really learn all of the ins and outs of the combat, and not only that, but actually learn how to utilize each of the different prosthetic tools, learn where you can find each of the prosthetic tools, which is extremely important when it comes to deciding how hard the game is going to be, because having the right prosthetic tool at the right time is going to make every bit of difference in just about every single encounter in this game. And that, I feel, is really the crux of why a lot of people think that this game is that hard. It's like you look at Dark Souls, right? And you already know that at the start of the game, you can go to the tail of the Hellkite Drake, and you can get the Drake Sword that way. And that is a weapon that you can use as a crutch to really go through a large part of the game. Or you know that you can farm the Balder Knights in order to get yourself a Baller Swag Sword. And then you can use that sword to pretty much cleave your path through the game. No problems, no questions asked. Go down to the catacombs, get a great scythe. That kind of stuff. Whereas in Sekiro, a lot of people still don't know that. And because of the fact that you still don't know where to get some of the best tools, it also means that, you're going to struggle on certain boss fights. I myself am struggling a lot on a lot of situations. The difference is I don't immediately just assume, oh, the problem here is the game's too hard. There's a difficulty issue in the game. Clearly, the learning curve is way too steep. And it's like, look, there is a learning curve. You're going to have to learn to parry. Like that's just a no-brainer. But the parry windows in this game, some people are saying, oh, they're so tight, they're like almost impossible. And it's like, yeah, for certain moves, they do get a little bit hard. But ultimately, there's always something that kind of enables you to go around that. At least for most of the encounters that I've found so far, there's always some kind of a tool, some kind of an item that you can use that does make things significantly easier. And if you're stuck in a boss and you're just like smashing your face against it, like I've done in the past, so long as it is a conscious choice that you are making, it's like, I'm gonna smash my face against this boss because I just kind of feel like it. Like, that's fine. But if you're smashing your face against the boss in sheer frustration, like, the first thing that you got to do is take a step back. Because, look, these are not linear games. And Sekiro is most definitely not a linear game. It's like if you just go straight forward from point A to point B in a certain area, you're going to find bosses that are incredibly higher on the difficulty scale than some of the enemies that you have fought before. This is intentional because you're supposed to backtrack and go back to previous areas that you have been to. And I know that not everybody is going to be into that specific playstyle, but I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that the game is not as hard as a lot of people are making it out to be, so long as you have the proper tools to deal with the situation. Or so long as you can actually look at each boss fight and figure out, oh, I can probably approach this from a different angle. And maybe if I go from a different angle, I can get a Shinobi Death Blow a little bit earlier in the fight, thus giving me a pretty beefy advantage. Or maybe there's something in this area that I can kind of use against this specific boss, which again, gives me the edge. Because like, if you're going to tackle everything face first, then yeah, I can tell you right now, if you're going to tackle everything face first and do not take advantage of all of the systems that are in Sekiro, yes, it's harder than Dark Souls. Like, no questions asked. If you just like play this like Dark Souls, do not make use of your incredible mobility to reset enemies and to, you know, strike from the shadows to get shinobi death blows and all that stuff. If you just like, there's multiple situations in the game even where there's just like 6, 7 enemies. You're not supposed to run headfirst into that and survive. The whole point of you being a shinobi and getting all of these mobility tools is so that, maybe I can go to the rooftop, or maybe I can hide in that bush and I can take out one dude and then run away, then come back, take out another one. Like, this is intended. This is how the game is supposed to be played. Then there's also the fact that you do have skill trees. These skill trees are going to make things significantly easier. Like, for all the people out there that are struggling with spear enemies, for instance, like I am. I struggle with spear enemies all the time, or just enemies that tend to use thrusting attacks. I mean, the reason why I struggle is because there's a specific counter to thrusting attacks that you should definitely get in your skills as soon as you can. It is super important. But ultimately, the problem then becomes like, what about when he does another attack that is not a thrusting attack? You're going to have to be able to read that, and you're going to have to respond on the fly. And that is important. That is going to be something that is going to take some practice, and you are going to die, and you are going to suffer from the death penalty mechanic, and that is why there are items that will enable you to recover from the death penalty mechanic in the game. You're supposed to use them every now and then. That's just how the game is designed. But fundamentally, the more I play, the less I think that this is harder than Souls. Like, I didn't think it was harder than Souls when I started playing. Now, there's also people saying, oh, it's easier than Souls. Like, no, I'd say it's about on par. Like, it requires you to be a little bit more dexterous at combat, so to speak, because you could turtle. You could turtle in Dark Souls, and you can't turtle here. Turtling here will always lead to you dying. That's just the way it goes. You can, however, dodge and parry and learn enemy patterns that way. Just like go into an enemy fight and then just like dodge all over the place and then parry all over the place to try and figure out the moves that they throw at you, to figure out when you can counter them, how you can counter them. And practice is always going to make perfect. And yes, I tackle these games very much as a trial and error kind of thing. And yes, you will be punished because of the death penalty mechanic in the game. But it's like, again, if you have the right tools for the job, when you realize that you have the right tools for the job, like, most encounters are very much doable. Like, even just today, I was fighting a boss, and I remember I died like 3, 4, 5 times to it, and I was like, damn, dude, this thing is hard. And then I was like, let's try out this item that I have here that I don't use all that often in conjunction with this particular prosthetic tool. Again, I'm not going into spoiler territory, but let's try out these two in combination. And I did it, and I was like, oh, this works. This does a lot of damage. This works really well. So I started going after that particular boss using that specific combination. I was like, oh, see, that was easy. I killed him, and I think I only used like 2 or 3 potions. I didn't even have to die and resurrect, which is another thing. You still have the mechanic where you die and you resurrect. And if you're able to get a shinobi death blow in between, you can actually resurrect twice. Or eventually further in the game, you might even be able to resurrect more often, so long as you are able to, keep up killing enemies, keep up doing shinobi death blows and all of that stuff. And at the end of the day, there's just this sense of satisfaction whenever you do beat each of those encounters. That, again, it takes me back, all the way back to friggin' Demon Souls, which is weird, because like, even though I like Dark Souls more, Demon Souls is the first one that I played, and that's when I first got that feel, that feel of achievement, which I gotta be honest, you still get that in Bloodborne and Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, all of that stuff, more in Bloodborne, because Bloodborne was different, because like I always say, I'd rather see From Software do the different stuff that they do. But Sekiro, I think, manages to really take us back to the very first time that you felt the sense of achievement of defeating a boss, which to me was in Demon Souls. And there's just something so special about that. And I hate to see people get discouraged because they feel like, oh, the game is too hard, the game is unfair, the game is this, the game is that. If there is one complaint that I can lob at this system, is the fact that sometimes when I'm fighting a boss, I feel like the game is queuing my moves, and I wish it wouldn't do that. So like, you know, like you're spamming R1 to get some damage in because you see an opening, right? And the game starts attacking. And even after you stop, the game might do like R1 one more time because it's been queuing your attacks. That is one of the things that I do feel. And that is problematic in certain situations because the game does expect you to be extremely fast at responding to enemies. So sometimes as I'm spamming R1 to get my damage in, and then the enemy does something that I need to perform a special action in order to counter. Like if I want to do a Migiri counter, that is going to be a problem because that R1 is going to be queued up and I'm going to you got me, you know? So that is something that you will have to like pause your attacks every now and then, and I kind of feel like that particular aspect of it could have been maybe a little bit better done. Like, I don't know, I'm actually curious to hear from you guys if anybody else feels that way. Like, let me know in the comment section below because I'm very curious if that is just like a me problem, because it could be. It could be just a me problem. Maybe if it's even a problem with my control because this game does demand you to really counter stuff like super fast. So maybe if my controller is acting up or something, maybe that is where that is coming from. But, you know, other than that, it's just like, it's all about figuring out where's the right tool for the job and then using that tool. And ultimately, like I keep saying, you're not going to get a much better combat experience than this in most titles that are coming out nowadays because it's just not there and it feels so friggin' good. So don't be discouraged. Like, keep trying. Just keep trying to get into the rhythm of the parry and all of that stuff. And if something feels particularly hard, look through your items. Maybe you'll find something that you can use in that particular situation. Try out a different prosthetic tool. Maybe a different prosthetic tool will give you a new opening on things. And you're like, oh my God, this makes things so much easier. It happens to me all the time because I'm always stuck on that axe prosthetic because I friggin' love it, right? But seriously, try different prosthetic tools. Try different tactics. Try approaching situations in different ways. And you will find that this game is very much, I was going to say achievable. I'm missing the word. I don't mean achievable, but you'll find that you can get through the game and that it is not as hard as so many people are making it out to be. At least from my experience of the game so far, I'm still like completely hooked. I don't know how many hours in I am right now. I think I did like, what, 3 more plus 3 more today, like 6 more, 17, probably about 25 hours in because I've also been dealing with some other things in my life recently. I might talk about that, but either way, if you guys want to keep watching the blind playthrough, do remember that I am doing that on Twitch, and I know that I'm a little bit late with uploading the episodes onto the archive on YouTube. Again, I apologize about that, but I've been dealing with some stuff. I've been dealing with some stuff in real life. So yeah, either way, thank you all very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you did not like this video, if you completely disagree with me, hit the dislike button. Again, the important thing is that you rate because that helps me out immensely in, you know, doing future content. I really want to see what you guys have to say about this particular topic in the comment section down below. Thank you all very much for watching once again. And if you guys are new here, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, all that stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.